Greetings, world. Welcome back. Welcome back to another impromptu episode of Beers with Max, minus the beer, because I'm on week 7. I'm on week 7 of a broken foot. I have my appointment tomorrow, and Laura, rumor has it that alcohol is not good. Well, it's poison in general, but really not good if you're trying to heal a broken bone. That's what I learned.
I would say that's correct. I don't
Yeah,
have any broken bones, and
I can't
but
recommend it.
it's morning where I am, and I won't be drinking a wine.
There you go. So Laura and I were just discussing that it's no longer viable to charge 450 American dollars per month for video hosting software because it turns out you can just do that on YouTube for free. So, I'm not naming any names, Wistia, but I just can't. I've been a customer forever, and they were
Yeah.
like, by the way, we're doubling our price and blah blah blah. It's like you got something that AI can do for the most part with free alternatives. Where's the I don't get it, but this is not what we're talking about today, Laura. We're talking about agencies. We're gonna rap about what's wrong in the world, but we're on the topic of what's wrong in the world. I think I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know how they could be so surgical about removing a loyal customer.
Well, I think it will be very soon. It'll be a stampede, and they will realize that you and I are both leaving in within a day of them doing it. So I don't think we're the only ones. You're the first person I've talked to about it, and you're doing the
Yeah,
same
I
as
mean
me.
that's like a full marketing platform with like your whole website. Like that's how much they charge for that stuff. And
Yeah,
we're talking about video hosting and like a
it's a tool.
mediocre editing tool
Yeah, tool,
that
and there's no personal person there doing anything. It's just a tool. Yeah.
there's you're right. There's no this is a natural segue to the agency talk. I think it's all about the people. I think it's all about the relationships. I think we've gotten way too tactical. We're out there delivering marketing stuff and we're blindsided by churn, and we're looking at a book of business that just slowly degrades because we're not using real business relationships. That's my overall philosophy. If you want it in like a 5 second sum up.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's
Now,
interesting that we both posted on the same topic today, identically.
well, I think it was. I think we had like a subliminal like linkage of we knew we were going to talk today. We had talked last week, and so we just started getting onto it about growing agency accounts. And I think from talking, like I've really been. This has been the focus of almost every one of my agency discussions in the past 2 months for sure, which is at least 50, at least 50 agencies. And so many agencies are focused on retention, holding on to clients, and their entire relationship with their existing book of business is negative. All they see is the existing book of business goes down. It's almost that they're not even confident enough to look at that book of business as a growable asset. And so there's no process, there's no roles, there's no incentive, all the things that you were talking about in your post today, where I was going, yeah, want to talk
Yeah,
about this stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, it took me a while when I was running my agency to work it out, because I think as I said in my post today, it was, I felt like I was the hunter and the farmer, like I had to go out there and get the clients and bring them in and get them onboarded. And then the team would look after them. And then I would be going, oh, now I got to go and meet with the clients and see if I can actually find out what's going on and see if I can find ways to grow the business and come up with some other ideas. And then it occurred to me, I mean, well, actually, hang on a minute. If I'm the hunter and these guys are the farmers, farmers grow things, right? That's what farmers do. So if they're
Okay.
the
Yeah.
farmers, I don't mind going out and bringing the stuff in. I'll go out and hunt like a lion and bring it in. But meanwhile, my guys shouldn't be just sitting there kind of just, looking after them. It's not just babysitting them. It's
Yeah.
actually growing them. And I went, okay. And like I do when I'm working with agency owners, I say, it's on you, like and I hear it actually quite often. It's like, well, I can't trust my people to actually do the job properly, let alone grow it. And I always say, look, it's on you. like that's on you. What have you put in place that actually enables and empowers and explains how it works? So when I got to that stage, I went, I'm over this. I need my, and I liked you had, what did you call them today? Agency, the
Growth advisors, but
growth advisors. Yeah. Mine were called account managers and account directors. But I went, hey, it's
yeah.
on you guys. I need to bring the clients in and you need to grow them. That's our relationship here. So I went,
So
yeah.
there's something terribly wrong when I'm using a non like fully into when I'm using a buzzword. I felt really bad having to call it something different, but so you and I would both agree this is the account management function.
Yeah. Clients.
And I think yeah, but I think we would agree that there's a separate project management function, which is tactical delivery of the work, that is different from an account manager who's responsible for retention, responsible for upsell, responsible for expanding decision maker level relationships, ultimately responsible for keeping the account. And what's happened, at least what I've seen, is that function has largely disappeared, and people are calling the project management function account management.
Right.
And there's no emphasis on the relationship. They're not even delivering real quarterly business. They're not even having discussions during quarterly business reviews about their client's business. They're simply presenting their myriad of marketing metrics. Thank you, Martech 2025.
Yeah. They're processing it through.
Yeah,
Um,
just
yeah.
just cranking the. Here's your
Process.
corn. Here's your
Yeah.
corn. By the way, the crop got smaller this year. And you're
Exactly.
like, how about some ideas on how we grow how about you plant some new corn? Hmm? They're like,
Yep.
that's not my job. I go,
Yeah.
I harvest the
Yeah.
corn.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. So it's a good analogy like that. So, as I say, but then it came, well, it's on, if they don't know how to do it and they're not doing it, then there's a problem with the workings of the system, right? And that's
Well,
what I went. It's on me. If they're not doing it, and I know how to do it, I've got to put it into the absolute culture and the DNA of this agency that client growth is it's a requirement and it's a KPI and it's in our forecasting, it's in our budgets, and there is accountability and responsibility that sits with the client service team to meet their client growth targets. And once I got my head around that and went, right, actually that's what it is. We have client growth targets. You guys are responsible for it. So you've got to work out how you're going to deliver it, and then I will actually teach you how I would do it,
yeah,
and then we'll systemize that, and then we'll create a mentoring system around that, so that everybody that sits client facing understands how to do it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, unless they're working with you or me, or they get a hold of a few other enlightened CEOs that I've spoken to in the past couple of months, what they will instead do is listen to all of this market pressure to get out of delivery, totally out of delivery, as
right.
the founder or as someone on the leadership team that has the business acumen, has the background to be able to have these conversations. They remove themselves from service delivery as almost a badge of pride.
Oh my God!
And
Well, I did not know this. It's not.
well,
That's a terrible
here's
situation.
well, yes, but there's a lot of pressure saying if you want to be a grown-up agency, if you want to be a grown-up in this industry, that because you've gotten out of service delivery and you've gotten out of sales. That's what it means to be. I'm just saying, culturally, at least over here, everyone's banging this drum of like, do your own. You're not successful if you're trapped in service or sales. It's not scalable. People like to use that word scale, um,
How
and
can
they don't
how can you
leave
scale
behind.
something that's not around service and sales? Like those are the fundamentals of any business.
Well, right, and so I would say, you've got to. They're naturally good at it when they're during that time period where they're servicing clients. They're naturally good at expanding client relationships, speaking in business terms. What they don't do is document it or record it or
Right.
mentor people for
Yeah.
that piece.
That's right.
They
That's
find someone that can do the marketing thing. That's that line item on the proposal or the scope of work or whatever it is. They get out of service and those relationships disappear and the clients churn. And honestly, most of them just are in this spiral, this death spiral, because they never told people, hey, managing relationships and having business conversations is a big part of retention and growth. But anyway, I'm done with my rant. I want to hear more about your today. You posted, what was it, three or four of your top four things for growing client accounts. Let's start there, and then I want to hear about your programs, because you've got a lot of other points besides just account growth that we can rap
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. Client growth is, I've got a flywheel of 7 strategies. I call it a flywheel because you have to, as an agency owner, you have to be able to mark yourself, out of 5, at least a 4 on all of the 7 strategies to really create accelerated growth. So you might be good at one thing, you might be good at lead generation sales, but if you're no good at client growth and you're no good at, you haven't got a self-managing team, there's a whole lot of stuff that makes up the flywheel. So the client growth, I call it a client growth system, is one of the core strategies. And is that, you want me to talk about that particular
Yeah, sure. We
piece?
could start there, because I do want to hear about the other pieces. And before we get into the other pieces, we'll just we'll do a few minutes on your origin story, because how long ago is it now that you sold the agency?
It's over 10 years ago now that I sold
Yeah.
it. I then had I started it from as a freelancer. I
Yeah.
set out with a goal to build and sell it to a multinational within 10 years. And I sold it to the Ogilvy Group at 9 years, just over 9 years, at their 9 year mark. So that was kind of like a big tick in terms of, a great success story. But of course, it was a massive roller coaster of highs and
Yeah.
lows, and all of the stuff that when you're working with agency owners, and I do, is that it's not an easy business. It's not an easy model, and it is hard to scale. And so, that's so really what I do now with my program is I share what actually worked for us. We got stuck at about 1.5 million for nearly 3 years, and in just trying to get past that barrier, and then putting in place all of these strategies. We kind of 1 year we sort of, these clients almost flew out of the pipeline that we'd been working on, and we landed 4 big clients in 1 year. And then we just then it was just a whole different growth trajectory from there, because we were on the map. We started winning awards, and we won Agency of the Year. And so we went from being really stuck to being to accelerated growth. And so that's pretty much what I teach.
Well, there's 7 pieces, and we're definitely gonna talk about your programs. Beers with Max is like a let's sell some stuff type thing. It's not
Right.
like one of
Okay.
those reserved, like, oh, don't promote yourself. It's like, look, we all got to make money. And there's agencies, so let's tell them how we can get some value. But you said that when you were a freelancer and you just started the agency, that your vision was to sell the business in a number of years. You were starting the agency that you were going to sell to. I don't know if you had the exact buyer in mind at that time, but this has become really a part of your framework. The first of the 7 pillars is to have a very clear vision for your business, and I'm sure you talk to as many agency owners as I do. They have no clue what the end game is.
Yeah, it's the first of the flywheel, and the first of the modules in the program that I teach, and it actually is the most transformational, because it's this, getting clear on what's possible and what it could be. And then when you set a big enough goal and you look into the future far enough, you have to really look at what you're doing now and go, is what I'm doing now going to get me there? And usually the answer is no, because what you're doing now is what you've been doing, that's got you to where you're at. And if you keep doing more of the same, you might get some incremental growth, but you can't keep doing the same and expect accelerated growth. So that's my whole reason for I was always really clear that I wanted to sell it to a multinational. I didn't know exactly which multinational, but I knew it was a multinational. I also knew how much I wanted to sell it for, and so I worked out what my revenues would need to be in order to get that sale price. And so that's how I set my target. And then so
Yeah.
always it was like, well, I'm not going to get, and it was I was a freelancer, I had nothing, so it was, I'm going to have to work out between now and 10 years how I'm going to do that. And so that was always I had a really clear picture, and that's what I get agency owners to do, is just get a really clear picture. Because if you know what you're building, you feel excited. You can put some, it's not all about financial goals. I get them to do what I call a big, hairy, audacious goal. It's not my saying, but a big, hairy, audacious goal. That's something that's non-financial that everyone in the agency can go after, that's inspirational and aspirational. So that when you build a team, you're building a team that's all working together to get this amazing goal. And that's what leadership is, really. You know, when you think of any great leaders, whether it's in the army or it's sports or whatever, there's a united team after a goal that they all share, and then they all work out. They all know what their role is in to achieve that goal. And so, you know, the goal part of it and the knowing where you're going is probably and I do it first. And honestly, you do see the lights go on, because it's like, wow. You know, and then you start to think, as an agency owner, what am I going to have to change in order to get there? Because I'm not going to get there doing things the way I'm doing it now. So once I get agency owners into that willingness to shift their mindset and to think differently, it makes the rest of the strategies start to make sense, because they're really eager to work it out, to implement them.
Yeah. Well, I'm eager. I'm listening for the secret, because honestly, it's very difficult to get them to change. Specifically, I think the way they're delivering services. I find it very easy for agency owners to admit that they need help on the sales side, to seek help for positioning, because they can clearly see that they're not focused in that regard. They don't stand out. But when it comes to servicing clients, I feel like it's their dirty secret that it's like the one thing that they've psyched themselves up, that they are the best. It's the same people that say we have the best team in the world. It's like, no, you don't. You have a team of 15 people that you drive into your office from relatively, near the office hometown. But I think they're very protective over, this is how we add value to clients. We're good at it, and they're terrified of changing that. At least that's been my experience. Like, the last thing that they want to look at and go, ooh, we're letting our clients down.
Yeah, well, I think and it's not in the flywheel. It's not the first one, because I think if it was the first one, I think that would be the reaction. But because it comes after the other strategies, of which positioning is clearly one of them. What does an ideal client look like? That's another one. Like, quality of clients is one of the strategies, so that it's not just lead generation, and it's actually what kind of clients. And again, that comes back to the future. If you want to be this kind of agency in the future, what kind of clients are in that portfolio? Because you need to start attracting them and getting yourself ready to be attractive to those kind of clients now. So as we move around, and we go through the sales system, but then it's like, well, if those are the sorts of clients that you're wanting in the future, and you're going to need to actually look at the current clients you've got, and rate them against the criteria. So we come up in the quality client module, we come up with the criteria of an ideal client, and then in the client growth, we actually rate them and go, and it's quite easy to do. You put your criteria along the top, you put your name of the clients down the side, and you rate them on the criteria out of 5 or whatever, and at the end you get a score. And then you go, okay, so who are our top clients that we've got already that we really want? And then of the ones coming up, which ones can we migrate? The lower ones, can they be migrated? And the only way you're going to migrate them is to educate them, train them, sell, grow them. And then the bottom ones are the ones over time you're going to need to let go of, because they don't fit the portfolio that you want in the future. So once they understand that that's what they're trying to do, then they become a lot more open to, okay, what are you doing with your current clients? And actually growing clients is a critical strategy, and you need to mark yourself out of 5, and so yeah. I'm pretty tough on it, there's no point bullshitting yourself, is there? If you've got to mark yourself out of 5 and you actually aren't doing anything on client growth, and your clients haven't grown in the last 3 years, then you can't give yourself a 5. You just can't. Why would you bullshit yourself? It's like, if it's a 2, make it a 2, and then work out what you need to do to make it a 5. And that's where I sort of give them some of the tools that I talked about today in my post, is that we built, when I realized that I needed my client service people to do this work, we We actually built client growth into our forecasting, our annual, and I'd get the client facing team had to come to me and say, what is the client growth? We put in what we expected. This is what we're expecting from them. This is locked in, or this is confident revenue from these clients. Now I put a growth target on top of that, and they had to commit to it. If it was their clients, they had to commit to it. And right, that's your target, and your bonus is then tied into the achievement of that target. So therefore, it was like it wasn't complicated. It was just quite simple. We reckon we could grow this client 10% this year. Okay, cool. Then what is your strategies to do that? And let's talk about those, and let's have those built into our quarterly reviews and how we're going.
Yeah,
So
I'd
that,
love to hear that. I would love to speak with more agency owners that are doing that.
well, they're not when they start, but that's I guess what we're trying to do is actually empower and offer the gift of what works, and it worked for me. I wasn't doing it, and we were stuck.
Yeah.
I started
Now,
doing it,
I
and we got better.
so I did happen to notice that out of the seven pieces of the flywheel, retention is not one of them. I'm a big fan of, even though I talk about being a churn physician on LinkedIn, I do that because people, at least agency owners that I talk to, are much more aware of retention and churn. They want to hold on to their clients' retention, or they're reacting to this negative experience of
Yes.
surprise churn. But when I talk to David Baker, when I talk to you, really other agency specialists, it's all about focusing on growth. Because if you focus on growth, the retention takes care of itself. You can't
Exactly.
grow an account that you don't have.
That's right.
And the challenge with focusing on retention is you just become an order taker. You just do
Exactly.
more and
It's
more of
about
what the client
it's about
asks.
making clients happy, keeping clients happy, and the assumption behind that is that keeping them happy is doing a good job, which is actually the baseline, right? Like doing a good job is the baseline.
You have to deliver what you said you would
Like
deliver.
that's what
We
if
got
you
that.
don't do a good job, they're going to leave. But equally, as you say, when you focus on growth, it actually, and what I trained our guys to do is that it actually means that they go to every briefing session fully trained on how to ask really good, deep questions,
Yeah.
which by default, the client goes, "This is great. I hadn't thought of that." Like that's a really good point. And so briefing sessions are not order taking sessions. They're actually robust conversations about what are we trying to achieve here. And I had to train that into so that we had a shadowing system, and I came up with the checklist. Like this is the checklist. You don't leave a briefing session until you've uncovered all of these things, and then you come back and you do a reverse brief that actually may or not address what the client asked for, but actually builds in all of these ideas on what else they could do to get the result. And so then that starts to move you into sort of a more of a partnership relationship where you're actually adding value, not just taking orders. And ultimately, that's what any client wants from an agency, isn't it? Really, is actually to grow them and to care about them enough to offer more than they're asking for.
Well, and care about them enough to challenge them on their assumptions, because the reason they seek third party help in the first place is because their employees won't tell them the truth or challenge their assumptions. So they have to go to a third party and say, "Hey, tell us what we don't know, and we think we need this." At least the good clients, we think we need this over here. Here's the brief. And then good agencies or consultancies or advisors, real strategic partners will say, "Hey, this is great. Also, I think we can agree that there's a whole host of other things that we really need to consider if we're going to really solve this
Yeah.
problem." So that challenging of the client, the bringing of new ideas, that's the excitement that won you the deal in the first place. And if you
Yes.
focus on retention, all of that excitement, all of those challenges, you don't challenge your client if you're trying to hang on to the client. You just say yes and you keep going.
Yeah.
And it's that complacency, I think, that
Yeah, well, it
is the
breeds
downfall.
complacency because I think that analogy that we had right at the beginning is that you're harvesting, you're not planting new seeds, and you're not, you know,
Yeah.
growing new
By the way,
crops.
we lost 10% of the crop this year. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Let me
yeah,
know. Let me know when you
yeah,
got that next bushel of corn coming in.
yeah.
No one's
So I
like,
mean, that was the system was part of it, and relationship was part of it. That was another part of. So when I in the flywheel, we actually there's the module is it's called client growth system, but within it, I actually talk about how do you wow your clients and build really good relationships with them and have those client facing people. We were encouraged our guys to constantly take them out for drinks and coffees and kind of just get to know them as people, so that there was this real. And some of our best opportunities came from when one of our people was out socially with someone on the client side, and they would say, "Oh, we've got this big project coming up," and they'd come back to the agency and say, "I've just heard they've got this big project coming
Yeah.
up." And so as
And
a
you try
team,
not to get too excited, but
yeah,
that's exactly what you were looking for, that one little.
yeah, but that's so it kind of it's sort of like, but because they understood that client growth was necessary and what their bonus was tied to it, they were excited, because it's like, bring it back to the team and go, hey, there's something we could grab here, guys, and that could be that could help us achieve our client growth goal. But by doing that, we proactively then went to the client and said, hey, we've heard you're trying to do such and such. We've had some ideas. Do these help? And they would help, because we knew that was the problem they were trying to solve. So
Yeah.
it just, the whole team understood that client growth was a critical piece. And as you said, because they were focused on that, by default, they were going beyond the call of duty on every interaction. And it wasn't done in a salesy way. It was done in I gave them the checklist of, these are the sorts of questions you ask to uncover more depth, asking these questions, you get to understand their client, their customers better. You get to understand their assumptions. You get to understand what do they really know about their customers? What kind of level of research have they really done? Is there an opportunity for us to do some insight work with their customers to give us better insights into, it was just constantly, what's the opportunity to help them here?
I would. It was 10 years ago now that I left the agency. I just left. I was young. I was just too young doing this stuff. But when I left, I was always telling people. So it was one thing to grow the account, and I needed them to grow the account because I was the only person selling, and there was 5 of them and one of me. And I'm like, look, if you can grow these accounts, it's going to be far more significant than the one deal that I can bring in every month. But even more important than growing additional budget, I told them, was movement. Because, and I explained it like t-ball. At least baseball, American baseball. Little, like when you're kids, you put it on a tee. It just sits there. And I said, if a client watches you hit that ball off the tee, it's going to be exciting the first time. The 100th time they watch you hit that ball off a tee, they're going to go, hey, step aside. I think I could do that. It's not
Ah,
hard. So even if it's the same budget, creating movement, trying new things, saying, "Hey, we're doing this activity over here. What do you think about reallocating some of this towards researching a new category or trying a new this and that?" Something that would show them that you're challenging the status quo, that you're trying new ideas, even if there's no additional budget to be had.
yeah.
So we talked about incentivizing them. I think that's like your story about, look, this is part of the leadership meeting. It's an expectation for you to grow these accounts. I think that's a critical start. But then I know you mentioned mentoring in your post. How do you fill that experience gap? You've got marketers that know how to deliver marketing stuff. You, the business owner, know what it takes to have these deeper conversations. How do you upskill them? And is there a specific role that you find is missing in most cases?
Well, depending on the size of the agency, it's our agency was, I think we were 24 people when I sold it, so it was building up to that. There was, in the early days when we were a smaller team, I would do as I said, I created a checklist of, this is the information that you need to know about your clients at any given time. And
Yeah.
so when we go to a briefing, you can't come away from a briefing until you're satisfied that you know all the answers to this. And the first time I would say, right, if someone new came on board, and when I instigated this, it was all my client service people. I say, right, what we're going to do now is, I'm going to come to the briefing session. In fact, I'm going to run the briefing sessions, and you're going to shadow me for 3 briefing sessions. and you're going to watch how I use this checklist. And then at the end of each of those briefing sessions, I'm going to get you to do the reverse brief based on the information that I've gathered, which will be different from the one the client originally gave us because we'll have used some of our insights to add value to that. So I would do the briefing, I would show them, I would get them to do the reverse brief, and then after 3 of those, I would get them to run the briefing, and I would shadow them just to see how they were doing it. And then at the end, they would do the reverse brief, and we would discuss what they'd missed or whatever. And then after that, then they were on their own. But they still, for another 3, they needed to send the reverse brief to me, just so I could check that there was it was of a quality that was going to get us what we needed to do. So that was the kind of the mentoring around the briefing, and then of course as the agency grew and I had more senior people, I had account directors. They would then mentor their people coming through in exactly that same system. So it's old school, It's like teach them what put a system and then build the reward into the bonus system. So they had a reward, they had something as a team that they were working towards, and then they had training, and that was one aspect of it. I mean, we were a creative agency, so we had creative people, and they were also expected to play a role in growing clients, which was, once they got the brief, it's like, well, don't just come back with the answer to that brief. Come back with a whole bunch of other ideas that the client might actually go, that's fantastic. We could do more of that. Everything was just like, it was always more on the table to look at and choose from and explore.
I want your opinion on this because I ran into this twice today. Twice. Where somebody said to me, well, we have role players on our team that are really good at delivering, and they don't need to be the ones establishing deeper relationships or challenging. And I said, I don't believe that. I think that everyone on the team is either in with this idea that if we're going to maximize value for clients, we have to challenge them on it. We have to seek deeper relationships. Or you're going to have 1 or 2 people that don't believe in that. And now there's a tug of war. Is your culture and everyone in the organization going to be pulled towards complacency and delivery? Or are those people going to leave? Those are the only 2 things that can happen. So anyway, that's my opinion on it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, totally. I mean, that's, sort of...
from the copywriter to the CEO, we're going to challenge,
Yeah, totally. And that was the expectation, is that if you're going to come back with an idea, then come back with an idea that I used to say got legs, that they could use the idea for the one thing they wanted it for, but then they could see how it could be used in so many other ways. And so our creatives were always trying to think of ideas that could expand.
Yeah.
And then we would often present what they'd asked for, but present it with about 5 other applications that they hadn't asked for, and that they would go, well, actually, that's really cool. I think we'll do that as well. So it was it was a game. It was like, but the key to it is you've got to have it in your DNA and in your expectations about what we're doing here, is that, we are here to grow clients. And the other part of it was really everybody in our agency understood what we were trying to do financially, what we were trying to do, why growth was important, why we needed growth, how it worked, how it fed our ability to get all the cool stuff that we wanted, and to hire more people, and to, everything that we wanted came from our ability to deliver profit to the bottom line, and client growth played a role in that. And so when everyone understood that it was a game, and everyone's got a role to play, I think really
there's nothing more profitable than growing clients you already have.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
That's really good.
if you can sell three ideas for one brief that were, that it's,
So I've written that down. Ideas that expand. Like if you're going to give me an idea, give me the version 2 and the version 3 and the version 4. Show me how that idea expands. And what we ought to do one day, Laura, is compare notes on these client insights, the checklist. Because I think there's like a bingo card in the future, like a client insight bingo card that they could have on the desk and check off the things. I think we could have some fun with that. Yeah. But I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about some of these other elements in your flywheel. Second is niche,
Yeah.
niche,
Niche.
nichoir, however
Well,
you want to.
it's good for you guys in the States. You can say niche, and then you can say the riches are in the niches.
Yeah,
But
yeah, sure.
we
I
say
never
niche, so we
do
can't
that,
say
but
that.
I
Um,
usually just say focus because everyone uses that word. So I just say you're not focused.
yeah, yeah. Well, focused, positioning your offer. There's different ways to, I've been using offer more as a like, what are you actually taking to market that's unique and different, and your particular
Mm.
brand on what it is that you're doing.
I've
Because
been
there's,
able to circumvent the pushback of company wide focus because they're very reluctant to do that. I find, well, we've got clients over here, and what would they think? But if you can get them with the offer and say, okay, well, that's fine. You can have your unfocused, unprofitable clients, keep those. However, if we're going to go to market with an offer, we have to decide who that offer's for.
yeah, that's right. So that's why they, as I say, each of the flywheels actually, you can't really do one without the other. So you've got to do the quality client piece because
Yeah. So after niche, quality clients.
quality clients because you've got to go, what is the client? So go back to the agency of the future, which is the first part. Then what does the agency of the future look like? What kind of portfolio of clients does it have? And then you go, okay, well, what is your delivery? Like, what are you delivering? If you want to get that level of revenues and you've got this many clients, what are you delivering? Like, what is it that you're taking to market? What's your unique brand? And then you sort of bring that back to, well, if those are the sorts of clients we want, what are their particular needs and problems, and what are the clients we've got that are most like them at the moment that we can model this on and go, we know these clients, we know that we can actually really hone in on this particular piece and solve that really well for them. And usually what we say is that it's in your DNA. Like you're already doing something really, really well. You probably just haven't packaged it up in a way that shows your uniqueness because you're too busy doing everything for everybody. And so it's kind of, what is it that, and if you, from the book Good to Great, if you've read that, Jim Collins, he talks about the hedgehog concept, which is comes from the fable of the fox and the hedgehog. The fox has got lots of strategies to try and eat the hedgehog. Hedgehog's only got one strategy, which is to roll up in a ball of prickles, and the fox never gets to eat the hedgehog. So it's that one big idea that you've got, and to get to it, it's what are we most passionate about? What can we be the best in the world at, and what drives our economic engine? So that's the sort of piece that I get agencies to do in that particular model. And I've had agencies just go, wow, like, you know what? Our best clients are this particular type of client. We do our best work for them. We've got, our best case studies with them. And this actually, we do this. And so it's like, well, can you be the best at the world in that? And they go, yeah, I think we could. If we really focused in and got really, really good at it, we could be better at this than anybody else. And then you've got something to sell, like you've got a level of expertise and a level of confidence because you already know you can do it.
And I would imagine that's where a more differentiated point of view or a methodology. Here are for that specific audience. Here are the most important questions. Here's our way of answering those questions or making those decisions. And all of a sudden, you come out with we're not only servicing a particular type of client, but we're not doing everything under the sun. We
Yeah.
have we know the way.
Yeah. It's
And if our clients
expertise.
aren't bought into that way, they're not good clients for us.
Yeah, that's right. And standing and really owning that and being true to that is not necessarily easy because you've got to get confident enough to actually say no to something that isn't, and stand in your own uniqueness and your own particular brand of expertise that you can be confident because there's something that really it's kind of sexy that comes from an agency that's really confident about what it does. And
Yeah.
it's the sort of as opposed to, well, is that what you want? We'll do that. It's a little bit
Well,
needy, right? There's a certain neediness about we'll do whatever you want.
my dad always said, nobody hires somebody that needs the job.
No, well, that's true, isn't it?
Yeah,
You're always a bit
you
nervous
always
if you
want the
can't.
person
If
that
you
doesn't need the job.
Yeah.
They already have a great job. Those are the A players that you're trying to.
Yeah, if you can't get it was like an example was I needed to see an optician, and the optician that everyone recommended to couldn't see me for 3 weeks, and then there were three others that could see me the next day, and you're kind of going, why has that guy got a 3 weeks waiting list? It's like, I
I
want
can
that
wait three
guy.
weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I
you
was
know,
thinking about
that's
that
the
when I
place you want to own, right? You want to own the
yeah.
guy. You want to be the guy with the waiting list, not the guy that's going to take anyone that walks through the door tomorrow. You know, that's.
Well, speaking of hiring A players,
Hmm. Yep.
is the next rung on the
Yeah.
wheel
So,
ladder.
so after niche quality clients we've talked about, then comes A players. And here, my big one is, and one of my things I do is I actually hold up a mirror and say to agency owners, it's on you. You know, because I hear it, you know, like I can't, the reason I go, I keep getting called back in and doing the work myself and getting involved in client work is because, you know, the consistency is not there, you know, the quality's not there, whatever that is. And I just go, look, it's completely on you. You know, you cannot actually, you cannot grow, you cannot build the dream agency of the future without a team of A players. And that comes into your culture, how you recruit, and your expectations. And usually the questions when I say, "What's your culture like?" Nearly everyone says, "Oh, we've got a great culture. We've got a great culture. Everyone's really happy. You've got a great culture." You know, it's the whole kind of beanbags and pool tables, right? And then I go, so you know,
Yeah.
okay, so rate yourself on performance. You know, like if you were to look at everybody in your team and, you know, taking, you know, like how many of your team would you say are really high performers and how many are average and how many are kind of scraping to be average? And they go, oh, probably, you know, 25% are high performers. And I go, well, that's not a great culture, is it? That's a nice culture. That's an enabling culture that's allowing 75% of your people to not be high performers. How can that be a good culture?
We've got one person that upsells accounts. Everyone else, I
Yeah.
struggle with it. Great
And
culture.
so it's really interesting because then I hold up the mirror and I go, look, that's on you, you know. And then one thing I teach is that we did really well is we had a manifesto, which was what do we expect and what do we not tolerate in our agency. And it was quite simple. We had it up on the wall, but when we were recruiting, it was very much like, here's our big goal. This is where we're going. It's exciting. We're recruiting high performers that want to contribute to us getting to that goal. Here's our expectations. You know, can you live with that? And how are you going to contribute your unique skills to help us achieve that goal? That was the interview sort of. And then the third part was, what are your goals? Like, what do you want to achieve? You can see where we're going. You can see the kind of agency we are. We're high performers. We're high energy. What do you want? You know, like, and that's okay. You know, if you want to build your portfolio, you want to build your CV, you want to, you know, what is it you're doing that you're going to actually achieve and we can help you achieve? And the difference between hiring somebody who wants to join a team of high performers going after an exciting goal and bring their unique skills to help is so different to employing someone to do a job. You know, employ someone to do a job, they'll come and do a job. And then you have to try and drag them and encourage them and poke them into performing. Whereas if they come with a view to being a performer in the first place, and when, I mean, I didn't have this to start with, you know, I had my fair share of, you know, trying to work this all out. But when we got to a point where we actually had that high performance culture, it becomes self-selective, you know, like they kind of, the team actually doesn't tolerate anyone on the team dragging the chain because it's like, you're slowing us down, you know, like you didn't catch that ball, you know, like, and so, you know, what's happening? And so that's when you start getting to the first stage of really, I think, a successful agency. The ultimate stage is a self-managing company, a self-managing agency. The first stage of that is a self-managing team, and you can only get that with a team of high performers who are taking responsibility, who are they're excited by the goal. They do like the beanbags and the pool tables and, you know, the niceties, but
I'm
they're
almost certain they like working from home better.
whatever is the thing, as
Like
long as
I
they're
enjoy my
performing.
beanbag as long as it's at my home and I don't have to drive. I don't have to sit in 45 minutes of traffic to get there.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other thing now, isn't it? That's you know, the whole, you know, it's a real thing. You know, like I had friend of mine who has been working from home and has now been told she has to go back. She said, I've now added another 3 hours onto my day of travel that I was
Yeah.
working. And she's a high performer, right? And she's just going, you know, I was getting up at 7 and I was kind of straight into work in my dressing gown, getting 2 hours of work done before breakfast, you know, like, and now I'm sitting in traffic or I'm on a bus. I'm not working, you know.
Yeah,
It's,
and I'm also getting more perturbed
yeah. And she'd
the
say
entire
her thing was,
time.
I get up at 7 and then I go to the gym at lunchtime. And now she says, all the time I spend getting to work means that I can't go to the gym at lunchtime because I'm working through my lunch to make up for the hours that
Yeah, and your
happening in
energy, your
between.
people pick up on energy, and that's all negative, static crap. That's not it's not a healthy kind of energy. I was talking with someone earlier today about that, and he said, "Look, I don't care if you're in the office or at home. You need to be out there building stronger relationships." There's another CEO that's like, "Look, it's all about building stronger relationships with client accounts. So I don't want if you're not like I don't want to see you. I want you to go to that client. I want you to figure out how to have lunch with or speak to and learn about other people. So if you're spending 3 hours in the car, it better to be go to go see a client and build a stronger relationship with them.
Yeah,
I don't see how coming to this office is going to help you build stronger relationships, unless the only caveat is if it's building a stronger relationship with other team members,
yeah, yeah.
which of course doesn't happen in most cases. Everyone just sits at their cubicle and stares at the wall.
Yeah, that's right. So it's an interesting time now, and I think it more than ever when you've got a percentage of people working from home and different shifts or whatever that's working, is more important the high performance culture and the expectations and hiring people that are just motivated high performers in pursuit of a
Yeah.
common goal. It makes sense. I mean, any leader, like I said at the beginning, in leaders of armies and sports, it's a high performing team in pursuit of a common goal. And if you hire that way, then you're going to get people that actually they're excited by the company goal, and they're excited about their own goals within that. And as long as and then they want to be treated right and they want to be rewarded. And so it becomes, the nice things become the reward for a job well done rather than an entitlement of, I'll just come and do my job and I'll still get the bonus. I'll still get if I'm coming to work, I'll still get the beanbags or whatever.
Well, you've just categorized like 2.5 generations. Entitlement. I mean, we
Yeah.
there's
Well,
a lot
and
of
the
I expect to
generation,
get this.
yeah, the generational thing is comes up a lot. It comes up all the time when because I'm running these group cohorts and agency owners from around the world are all talking to each other, and that comes up a lot. Like this kind of generational entitlement, and I still hold up the mirror and I go, it's on you.
Someone
Like you
has to
can
enable
bitch
this
and moan
behavior.
about
Yeah.
it, but there are people in every generation that are high performers.
Mhm.
It's on you to create an environment and create a situation where they feel like they want to contribute.
Yeah.
It's harder. Well, it's not harder. It just means you can't just expect people to go, I'm going to come and work really hard because that's what we do. I mean, it was when I was a cop, when I was in the early days, I expected to work till 10 o'clock and get it was just what it was expected. Can't do that anymore, but it has to be, you have to have people that go, I want to actually see this succeed.
Yeah.
And then you've got to put the systems and the training and the support and the encouragement and be a better leader. That's what I just, and it was, the last cohort we had, there was one agency owner, he stood there and he said, when you put that mirror up, he said, I just got it. I just got that it was on me and that I hadn't actually been doing anything other than bitching and moaning about the fact that they were generationally entitled instead of actually working out what I could do to make sure that they were motivated.
I'm looking around because my version of the mirror was I have ping pong paddles that just say bullshit on it.
Great, I love it.
And they'd be talking and I could hold a everyone got one. I sent it as part of the package for the cohort. But everyone had a bullshit paddle. Like if I was saying something that they were like, I don't know, Max, you're gonna have to back that up. Everyone was entitled to,
Nice.
call bullshit.
Yeah.
But anyway, what are the names of these programs? And I know people can find you on LinkedIn, and we might be doing
Yes.
some extra collaboration together. But just let people know where they can learn more about these programs that you're running.
So the best place is the flagship program is called Growth Busters. The community that I'm building, we've got over 60 agencies in it now, is called SMASH, which stands for Scale My Agency Success Hub. And the vision there is to bring in agency owners who really, really want to be supported and have the best proven strategies and experts around them to actually ensure that they become the best version of themselves as they can as an agency. And so that's the community that we're building. We're going to be launching that on as a Slack community soon. But right now, the flagship program is called Growth Busters, and it's running as an 8-week program where we go through the flywheel of the strategies. I show you exactly what we did in my agency, and I get you to actually do your version of it, and then you get feedback on that. And we hop on a call every week with a cohort of 10 agency owners from the world, around the world. We've got New Zealand, Australia, the US, and the UK. So it's a global discussion, and they're very robust, very they're kind of like people. I think agency owners come to get the learning and the strategies, but it's a sort of bonus to actually realise that there's really rich conversations with agency owners in different parts of the world. Well, recently we've been seeing collaborations. We had an agency in New Zealand that hooked up with an agency in Sydney because they wanted a presence in Sydney, and the Sydney guys wanted some services that they didn't have. So we're starting now to see collaborations happening, and that's really exciting.
Yeah.
So
You never know who is going to inspire you.
yeah,
You could hear the same thing from 10 different people, and one of them is really going to resonate. The other 9, I don't know.
yeah,
Can't
that's
put my
right.
finger on it. But
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough for sharing some ideas. I hope we get to collaborate on
Well, that's right.
some of your programs there.
Yeah,
I
like
do
I'd
want to
love
let
to
you
actually be
go.
part of Smash in some way, like
Yeah,
because
I got I draw some pictures, you know. You have said absolutely nothing that I wouldn't agree with 100%, so I think we could have some fun.
absolutely.
Um, in the meantime, for those of you binging on Beers with Max, don't operate any heavy machinery. Tip your waitress. I'll see you next time.
Fantastic. Hey, thank you.